Good morning. This is Joe Bost with the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance. I hope you all are doing well. I am joined today by a friend of the business community in the Charlotte region, Congressman Ralph Norman. Congressman Norman represents a number of counties in the Charlotte region, including York, Lancaster, and Chester counties, and we're fortunate to have just a couple of minutes with him today. So, Congressman, welcome.
My pleasure to be here, Joe. Thank you for having me.
Well, again, thank you for joining us. I want to jump right in and talk about the CARES Act and really the Paycheck Protection Program, which has been one of the biggest highlights and key takeaways of the CARES Act package. But want to thank you and your colleagues for acting so quickly in the face of this crisis. We as a country have never seen anything like this in terms of this pandemic. So wanted to just express our gratitude as a business community for you and your colleagues acting so quickly.
Well, we had to, Joe, because of the crisis that America faces. And who would have thought that every door would be shuttered from a business standpoint. People would be sheltered in their homes. Schools would be out. And we've never seen anything like this. The good side of all this is I think Americans have had a front row seat into the fact that the sweatshop cheap labor in China is not so cheap. We've got to be self-sufficient. We've got to start manufacturing, particularly our PPE products, our healthcare products, our drugs. We've got to start manufacturing them here now more than ever. I think the president's done a great job of walking us through this. It's just uncharted waters that we're in. And I think the dollars that were spent with the CARES Act and particularly the Triple P went to the right people that should have gotten it. Were there hiccups? Absolutely. But I think the average loan that people had gotten had been $200,000 or less. The community banks are getting involved now. Whereas I think the media put out that was all commercial, the larger banks, the 10 billion plus, but the 10 billion under was made up 75% of the loans. So I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's been incredibly. We've seen incredibly positive news as it relates to how effective community banks have been in this. But we're blessed in the Charlotte region to have a tremendous amount of financial institutions, being the second biggest financial services sector in the country. But talk to us, and I know you alluded to it a little bit, but talk to us about kind of the more localized impact of PPP and what you're seeing. You got into it a little bit, but talk to us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, the dollars that currently, well, from the previous, from the second bill we voted on, I think there were in South Carolina 22,000 businesses that took advantage of it. I think the average loan was, again, under 200,000, 180. 3.8 billion was what was expended. I think that this is just a lifeline, and it did come without a lot of turmoil because a lot of particularly with the SBA back of the loans, a lot of they were flooded with applications, and so. It'll be interesting how we move forward. It'll be interesting the labor force that has been out on work leave, the ones that come back in. The long-term effect of this is going to be felt for years to come. This isn't going to be an immediate bounce back. Luckily, in South Carolina, as you know, we've got great industry here. Up until this hit, we're having a banner year, less than 3% unemployment. Houses, which are the kind of the baseline of any economy, were booming. Prices were up, but it's a new normal now that we're gonna have to face up and make the best of it. And it's going to start with our businesses to get them open back up. We've got to get open back up. The dollars is not enough money. You can't print enough money to tide us over a whole lot longer. And think about what the state governments are going to face. I mean, the budgets that are going to be curtailed as a result of this.
Yeah, I mean, we're starting to see some initial numbers about how potentially bad the impact is going to be on state and local budgets. And know that that's just only one of the symptoms of this pandemic, that's for sure. And we've been talking a lot at the Alliance of what you alluded to a little earlier about supply chains, and how do we get more American manufacturing again, bringing back some of those key, really PPE products, but other things that will help us better prepare for future pandemics. How do we bring that back to the country, bring that back to our country, so that we're better positioned, not just for the next pandemic, but to help our economy recover. But want to get back to PPP for just a second, with the next question. $650 billion roughly has been appropriated to the program. And that money, the new round of money, I'm sure will go rather quickly, as the first round did. I think the first round was done in less than 2 weeks. What do you see as the path forward here? Is Congress going to keep coming back and passing additional PPP funding bills? Talk to us a little bit about what you're seeing or sensing with your colleagues as it relates to the next steps with PPP and future recovery efforts.
Well, it's already been talked about as far as future funding. And there are a lot of us concerned on both sides of the aisle. How are we going to pay for this? There's no magic pot of money that's there that we can draw from. This is borrowed money. And secondly, there's already talk about the states wanting individual bailouts. I had a call yesterday from groups that were wanting to put forth stimuluses for individual businesses in each state. In South Carolina, this particular one was Sports Authority. And my question, along with a lot of other people, is how are we going to pay for this? Where's the money coming from? Now, it's not the federal government's responsibility to bail out the states. If my history is correct, 13 colonies formed the federal government, not vice versa. And the states are going to have to get their budgets in line. And they've already got to start figuring out what cuts are going to be made, and really priorities. We're going to have to set priorities, and our national defense and our national economy is top of the list. And we can't fund everything. So it is being talked in Congress about future programs, but there are a group of us that are going to fight that. This is the last stimulus bill that I'm going to vote for. There are a lot of needs out there, but look at what we've added to the national debt. We were 22 trillion and counting. No one really knows the cost of this. No one really came up with a checklist to come up with the $640 billion. And we've got to face reality. It's a new normal in this country. Spending is a new normal. We need to be back in Congress figuring out, I'm on the budget committee, figuring out how to prioritize our budget. And if we're going to continue down this road of insolvency without really taking a hard look on what we cannot provide, then the future looks bleak from an economic standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of tough decisions lay ahead for you and your colleagues as we continue down this road. But Congressman, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. It's been an honor and a pleasure to speak with you today, and certainly appreciate your accessibility to the Charlotte region and your friendship. So thank you so much for all that you're doing, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.
Appreciate what you do, Joe. Thank you.
Take care.